Welcome in everybody to this Friday night edition of the Alternative Edge. Usually we produce this at noontime on Friday afternoons, but today a little different. We decided to go a little nighttime action, a little live action. I usually just pre-record it, go a little live tonight to see what everybody's thinking. We're going to touch on a lot of different things today. We're going to touch on the Eagles game, okay? And we're talking about specific value with Jalen Hurts and his receivers. We're going to touch on Atlanta Falcons. Can they bounce back? What about Cleveland? Who's going to be the lead running back? It's all here tonight on the Alternative Edge. And we're going to get right into this. My man Trevor checking in already. Trevor, what's up? Checking out my man Trevor interviewing Barstool, man. My man is on another level. I love it. Love every minute of it. But again, this is a whole new concept for me, okay? And I absolutely love it. I really do. It's becoming one of my favorite shows. It really is. I like it because we get to talk about everything. We get to talk about DFS. We get to talk about the prop betting scene, okay, which is something I really enjoy. And we get to talk about how the levels go up and down based on what those values are. So we're going to get right into it because we're going to stick this to about 30, maybe 35. We'll stretch it out depending on if we have any comments. But like I said, I'm used to doing this recorded. Tonight's going to be live. So if you have anything, man, let it know. And shout out goes to my man Kevin, my boy Jason, Sharp gear, the hat, the shirt, man. Even for a big guy like Jigsaw, they took care of me. I like it. Trevor says, I like the Bengals spread, Cardinal spread, Bills, and Eagle. Man, you're like spreading all over, Trev. Let's talk about right there. Okay, let's talk about the Eagles. Okay, because you mentioned it, and we're going to talk about it. Okay, we're going to talk about it because last week, Jalen Hurts. Now, let me just say, we did very well last week. Okay, prop bets, we were 3 of 5. DFS, 11 of 12. I'll take that any day of the week. We're always in plus money. That's where we want to be. So as long as we're plus money, we're happy. Everybody's happy. Everybody's winning. Everybody's cashing. That's the name of the game. But let's stick right to the Philadelphia Eagles. And right off the bat, we're going to talk a little Jalen Hurts. Now, a lot of people consistently say, again, it was only the Falcons, right? Everybody's just saying it. It was only the Falcons. Let me just say something. I understand completely, but they do still have some playmakers on the defense, even though they didn't play too well, still have playmakers, okay? They do. And biggest thing that I seen from Jalen Hurts was poise. He was very poised in the pocket. He did not get rattled. Yes, was he perfect? No. They kept it simple. They kept the game plan simple. Okay, you're talking about in the games that he played last year, and I know it was only 5 or 6 as a whole, if you take all the quarters and put them together, 52% completion percentage. Last week alone, 77%, 27 to 35. So it showed you right there that they're sticking to the short passing game, and I think he was 7 of 8 for anything over 30 or 40 yards. So he was really, really good. And he used his legs when he had to, not because he wanted to. Okay, and almost 10 yards per carry. That's a big deal, right? That's a big deal. And again, I think the Philadelphia Eagles will consistently be able to make you some money if you pick the spots. And that's why we're going to pick the prop market right here. Now, last week, I was on the over 288, 285 and a half of rushing plus passing yards for Jalen Hurts. This week, I'm going under on both, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. Again, the cool thing about this show is we're going to give you the DFS values and we're going to give you the prop values, and I'm going to give you the difference. You see it right there, okay? So specifically, this was telling you. It's telling you that 50 and a half are the rush yards. It's telling you 236 and a half are the passing yards, and it's showing you his DFS value at 6,500 and a plus or minus of what it was the week before. In Jalen Hurts' case, you're plus 100 from 64 to 65. So he went up 100. That's it. So that $100 is low to me, which means I don't think they feel like he can reproduce the same type of game. The San Francisco 49ers gave up 338 yards to Jared Goff. The 49ers also lost their entire secondary. But they also have a they also have a man named Bosa. They also have a man named Warner. They have some very talented defensive players on that team that are going to go after Jalen Hurts. Fred Warner will be spying him the entire game. Now, the reason why I like his rush yards to be under is because of the Fred Warner effect. I really think Fred Warner will keep him in check. They're going to look at this short passing game and they're going to try to exploit it by pushing up the middle and pushing up the sides and making Jalen either want to run or beat them deep. So I think that could lead into some mistakes. So that's why I'm going to go to under. I'm going to play it safe here for Jalen Hurts. I still think he's going to be productive at 6,500. If we're talking DFS, I think he'll be productive at a DFS level. But what I will say, though, when we're talking about the prop bet level, 50.5 at 236.5, I think you go under all day. I really do. I think that this is going to be Jalen Hurts' game. Maybe I'll say he's going to go about 21 for 28, 220 yards, 225, throw a touchdown, rush for maybe about 35 or 40. And I think that'll be it for Jalen. And I think it'll be serviceable. We've talked about that before. It will be serviceable. And that's the most important part. So for me, for my money, I'm going to go on the under. Now, Trevor checking in, like saying Jalen looked poised, explosive. They rounded it. Yes, something we screamed about. Absolutely. We've been talking about forever. Gainwell, I like a lot. Listen, I love Gainwell. He was one of my preseason picks. I talked about him on Sirius the night before the game, said he could be a really underlining value of 4,000, a very low-hanging fruit there for your DFS value. And then you're talking about Frank Warner or a safety. Listen, Warner or a safety, I see on the quarter. Exactly. And that's my point, Trev. Warner to me is the most important part of this game on the other side of the ball. He's the most important point. And I think that's going to be the problem for Jalen Hurts. I think that's going to put him in situations he's not accustomed to. So we're going to get to see how Jalen reacts when it comes to the spotlight. So let's stick to the Eagles. Okay. Let's stick to the Eagles and let's go on the outside and let's look at Jalen Riger. Now, the reason why I want to look at Jalen Riger, again, I have it all there for you. I have the overs, I have the plus or minus, and I have the DFS values. It's all one. Listen, alternative edge, it's all one show. You see on the bottom, make sure you follow the Sharp app, at the Sharp app, all social formats. You see the www.sharpbets.app with the reference code. That's for me. So if you're going to sign up, which you need to sign up, you get a free month. And when you go longer, you use that coupon code HEAT. So I get some credit for bringing some people in. Okay. Join that free Discord chat as well. You will have some fun. There are a lot of crazy individuals in there that love themselves, some sports betting and some fantasy sports. So get in there, man. You'd be surprised. Or even talk a little hit of fantasy in there every now and then, but mainly for the sports bettors, mainly for the VIPs. Get in there, check it out. And I'm sure you will enjoy it. Now, Jalen Hurts, we've talked about, but now we're going to go to the other Jalen and Jalen Riger. Now, what I can say about Riger is, we obviously were very disappointed in what we've seen last year. We just were, right? And again, for good reason, right? For good reason. I mean, listen, we all know we had to sit there and watch Justin Jefferson, and we had that. Let's just look toward Philadelphia, look towards the future. That's all I can say. Look towards the future. Because tonight we're talking about making money. We're talking about some props. And we're going to look at Jalen Riger specifically, who last week had 6 targets. And guess what? He turned each target into a catch. 6 for 6. His target to catch ratio, 100%. Again, no corners in San Francisco. Shout out to Jason Verrett, who I really like. Battled back from one ACL. Now he just tore another one. So prayers up to him that he comes back and remains strong next year and gets through it, especially the mental part of it, getting injured twice on the same knee. So again, that's going to leave a lot of opportunity out there for these Philadelphia Eagles receivers. And Jalen Hurts had almost a 10-yard average last week. That's not a lot when we're talking about receivers, which means they're using them in those bubble screens, those catch and runs. He's going to get a lot of yak yards, right? That's what we're looking at, a lot of yak yards after the catch. That's what's going to be extremely important with Jalen Riger. And 6 for 49 last week. Okay, if he caught 6 passes for last week alone, you're talking about 3.5. You're only predicting him to go over 3.5 this week. I think that is almost a lock. And if you look at his DFS value, that shows you that they expect him to go over this prop as well, because it went up 400. 400. He was 3,700 in week 1. Now he's 4,100 in week 2. So if you see that number go up extremely high, and for me, anything over a couple $100 is high. That's a big swing. That means they're expecting big things, which that's when I look at the prop market and I'm going, okay, he caught 6 passes last year. 3.5 is a little less than half of a market share of going up. So I'm in all day on that. So for me, the over 3.5 receptions, I think that's a really good bet that you can place on. And I'm telling you, I'd play them in DFS as well at 4,100. Both of those values, they're just standing out to me right now. Standing out to me, specifically saying, you know what? Play me. Play me, right? Play me. Now let's go to another guy who I bought into last week. And I was a little wrong on. Not exactly, but the guy that I got to tip my hat to is Mark Ingram, because Mark Ingram made Jigsaw eat crow, and that's okay, right? Listen, I'm not ashamed to admit when I'm wrong. I'm not. And Philip Lindsay turned to be the third guy getting the rock. The third guy in Houston, right? I predicted him to be the number 1 guy, right? I still think he'll be the number 1 guy. It was only one game, people, but Mark Ingram definitely vultured all those carries when we're talking about the running back position. But Philip Lindsay still was able to get the ball 8 times, still was able to formulate almost 30 yards. So for me, again, you have to look at the matchup, right? Now, he goes down in value, obviously. I think that's a given. He goes down in value $100 at DFS market. Why? Because, again, he only had 8 carries, right? But this is going to be another team or another game where Houston, they're going to be behind a lot. They're going to be behind a lot. So they're going to use all 3 running backs. Cleveland has a very, very solid defense. We already know that, okay, especially against an inferior opponent like the Houston Texans. So if even in a game where he only got 8 carries and still produced almost 30 yards, they dropped his value 100 and gave you the opportunity to jump on his prop at 22.5. So I don't think he's going to go backwards. I think he's only going to go forward, okay? Because I'm telling you right now, Mike Ingram cannot continue to carry the load. This will be a week-to-week basis, okay? When you're playing Cleveland, who I expect to get up really big, really early, okay, that just means that you're going to have more of a pass catching style of back into the game, and that's going to obviously swing more towards David Johnson and Philip Lindsay. So I think at 22.5, that number is way too low. Okay, I would pounce on that all day long, and I think that's a really good over. Now, 4,600 is a decent price for your DFS market. Now, would I play them at 4,600? I don't know. Again, you have to look at who's available in that $4,600 range. Now, why you're playing a running back at 4,600, it all depends. Now, for me personally, I look at who's above and ahead. And I'll tell you right now, Nyheim Hines, who we're going to get to in a little bit, is 4,700. I'd much rather pay up 100 and get Nyheim Hines than Philip Lindsay. But when we're talking about props, like we do right here on the alternative edge, 22.5 is definitely a number I see that's extremely valid and extremely valuable as we're looking towards Sunday. Now let's stay on this running back market and stay on this game. And we're going to go right over and flip the script in Cleveland. Now, I know Cleveland choked, but I love that they were able to hang with San Francisco. I get it. I do. I get it. It's okay. Okay, it just showed that they're still ready for the big time, man. I'm telling you, they're ready for the big time. Now, I did not expect Nick Chubb to have the game that he had last week. I thought this was going to be more of a passing type game. He did only get 15 attempts, but he did score twice. Okay, so he had a 5.5 yards per carry average, which is extremely good. Right? Anything above 4.5, 4.7, 4.8 is really, really good. So I look at that number, say 5.5, give it to me all day long. Okay, Nick Chubb last week, 15 carries. Now, here's the interesting point. We just talked about Cleveland getting up early, which I firmly believe, even without OBJ, if he doesn't play, I still think they get up early. And I still think this has Kareem Hunt written all over it. These are the type of games where Kareem Hunt shines. Okay, we see it last year. He only got 6 attempts last week. and he only had 3 targets. Nick Chubb only had 2 targets, but I think that was more of a game flow, but he did still score a touchdown, and 5.5 yards per carry, which means that offensive line in Cleveland is solid. Okay, so I looked at his number, and I looked at number one, I looked at his DFS value. Okay, he's plus 300. He was 5,500 last week, 5,800 this week. What that is telling me, again, is we are predicting a big game from Kareem Hunt. Because of that, I'm looking at his over of 39.5 for his rushing yards and his over of 59.5 passing yards. Now, the reason why is I'm looking at what he did last week. Last week, only had 3 targets for 28 yards. He caught, and all 3, 100% target to pass ratio, right? 100%, which is fine. We just talked about that. So, again, 28 yards and 38 yards. I get it. I'm talking about a little bit of a hike here, right? He only had 28 last week, and this week they're talking 59.5. Listen, I'm telling you, I have that feeling about the way this game is going to go. Okay, I do. And if anybody's going to be running the ball or catching the ball, it's going to be Kareem Hunt. I think this is one of those games where he only needs 2 catches to hit that number. One of those catches goes for about a 45-yard screen pass down the line into the end zone, and you're already going to be cashing your ticket. Okay, so again, Kareem Hunt, this is a double play here, 39.5 and 59.5. And I would play him in DFS at 5,800 because we talk about that. If you're going to grab those top tier players, whether it be a quarterback, whether it be a receiver, you're always going to have to get that number 2 running back that's in that 55, 56, 58, maybe even $5,000 range. And I think Kareem Hunt is that guy this week. I actually think Kareem Hunt will outproduce Nick Chubb this week. Okay, and it wasn't far off last week. We're only talking about 6 points. We're only talking about 6 points. That's it. That was the difference between Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb because they both scored. So, again, if Kareem Hunt gets that one pass, like I predict, that basically, catapult him over that 59.5 number when it comes to the passing yards, I 100% feel that this is going to be, I'm buying into it. I'm buying into the number. I don't care. I'm buying into it. I think this is a Kareem Hunt game, 100%. Now, let's stick to running backs and a guy that I don't think gets enough love. And I think everybody was waiting to see how week 1 was predicated, and that is my man, Mike Davis. So Mike Davis came out last week against Philadelphia, and I think he showed us what we wanted to see. We wanted to see what the snap percentage was going to be for Mike Davis. We wanted to see what the carry percentage was going to be for Mike Davis. We wanted to see how they were going to utilize him. And I'm telling you right now, with the only competition the carries being Wayne Goldman and Kevin Smith, he got 15. And he had 6 targets. That's over 20. In my opinion, again, they're going to use him as a bell cow. It just proved it. Last week, the Eagles' defense just stymied them a little bit. We're going to see what they can adjust. Very low, 3.3 yards per carry, which not good, right? Not good. But again, 6 targets, 3 catches for 23 yards, which shows that they're going to throw the ball. Again, Matty Ice, he only threw the ball 34 times, okay? That's unlike that offense for Atlanta. We're talking about an offense that throws 600-plus times a year, an offense that throws 45 to 50 times a game, right? This was just a bad show in week 1. And Tampa Bay, again, very good team. They're going to clamp down on this Atlanta Falcons team. But again, that's going to open up the opportunity for a lot of dump balls, right? Calvin Ridley, they're going to try to smother him as much as possible. Russell Gage, same thing, right? So I think Mike Davis is going to be able to get open. I mean, you've seen Chubb and Hunt had success last week. Obviously, their offensive line is a little better, but they had success last week against a really good Kansas City team, right? A veteran team on the defensive side of the ball. But that doesn't mean that Mike Davis can't get the targets, right? Doesn't mean that he can't get the looks. And I think if you look at this number over 3.5, it's a must play. It's a must play because even if this team is behind, they're going to throw the ball more, right? And that's the kind of thing that you have to look at. You have to look at the way this game flow is going to go, right? So if this is going to get out in front and out of hand early, they're still going to play Mike Davis. He's going to get a lot of garbage looks. 3.5 is not a big number. It's not a big number. And Atlanta, listen, Arthur Smith is going to come back this week with a new game plan and say, okay, that was my first audition as a new head coach. It went really bad. Let's flip the script. Let's show them why they brought me here. And I'm going to change things around and we are going to be productive, right? So Mike Davis came here to be that guy, to catch the ball and to run the ball. And over 3.5 for me, 100% is a good play. Now, DFS-wise, 5,500. He's only went up 100. Okay, which means, and here's where it's interesting, and I'm glad this is a perfect segue into why we're doing the show, because at 5,500, he only went up 100. So that means they don't expect him to veer very far from where he averaged last week as a baseline. Well, if that means he caught 3 catches last week, okay, and they only scored 6 points. The game was out of hand in the second quarter, which means we're only looking for one more pass to Mike Davis in order to put our prop bet as a winning ticket. And I think that's a no-brainer. I think 5 to 6 catches is the baseline this week for Mike Davis. I think he's going to have a really good game, DFS-wise. I do. I think yards per carry goes up. I predict he's going to score. I think the 49 to 60 yards will kind of be between 50 and 60 will be a baseline every week. But I think 4 to 5 catches is not out of the norm for Mike Davis for about 40 yards as a touchdown. I mean, if that's the case, DFS, you're talking 23, 25 points for 5,500. Okay, and when you're talking about that, you look at the overall running back market and you see guys like Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook at 95, 99, 91, Alvin Kamara, 88. That's a huge number. You're talking $4,000 less to possibly get around the same production. Scary, but true. Look inside the numbers. That's all I got to tell you. So now let's go to the lock of the week. Now, last week, my lock of the week was Henry Ruggs at over 2.5 receptions. I just thought that it was going to be a game without Marcus Peters for Baltimore, that Derek Carr was going to look to Henry Ruggs to get him going in the middle of the field. I did not expect Darren Waller to have 19 targets. I know he is the guy. I know he is the big piece, but God damn, can you throw the ball somewhere else? And then it wound up going to Bryan Edwards, right? So we almost got it. It was 2 catches. We almost had it 2-8. He only needed one more, and he had overtime to do it. Still didn't work, right? But that's okay. So this week, we go with a different lock. And I think this week, it's golden. I think it's solid. And that lock of this week is going to be my man from Indianapolis, Nyheim Hines, over 26.5 yards. There you see his DFS number, 4,700. Actually giving you a gift by dropping him $300. Normally, I would not recommend the pounce, but I'm telling you right now, that drop is too steep for me. Okay, I think that Nyheim Hines, 100% against the Rams. I know it's good defense, but we're playing at home. And listen, Frank Reich is one hell of a play caller. Carson Wentz will like to dump the ball off a lot. He will dump the ball off a lot. And you have 2 really good running backs in this team with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. And last week, you just see what he did. He still got to run the rock 9 times, and he had 8 targets. Listen, this is a team that looking for an identity from the pass catching position. Okay, they have to rely on Michael Pittman Jr., Zach Pascal, guys like that, because they have no T.Y. Hilton. Nyheim Hines is going to be the sure-handed receiver. Carson Wentz always had that guy out of the backfield, and he'll continue to look at that guy in Nyheim Hines. Last week, 8 targets, 6 catches, 48 yards. Listen, he's doubled basically this prop number. I know the double would be 52, but that's only +4. So for me, I'm just going to call it a double. Okay, he doubled this last week. And again, I know it was against Seattle, whose defense is not half as good as the Los Angeles Rams. I understand that. Okay, Aaron Donald is going to be a problem. But that offensive line is pretty good, especially knowing they have to protect Carson Wentz. And all this is going to do is get Nyheim Hines outside. Let Carson Wentz get rid of the ball quickly. And when you don't have a receiver that you can get the ball out quickly to, Nyheim Hines is going to be your best friend. So for me, for my money, the lock of the week, Nyheim Hines over 26.5. Okay. DFS value 4,700. He dropped minus 300 from last week. Okay, he was 5,000 a week before. I think that's definitely a guy and a number that you play, and I think this is something that you can absolutely grab some value with. Now, this show went well. Okay, so again, let me just end this by saying I'm trying to stick to a half hour. Because listen, nobody ever wants to sit in front of the TV for an hour and watch YouTube. I'm going to be honest with you, right? So, 40 minutes is probably the magic number of saying, yo, time to get the gong show out, get the guy out. The little guy comes out. He starts dancing a little bit, got the cane, pulls you out. Time to roll, right? But for me, for my money, on a Friday night, especially on a Friday night, I would 100% say that a half hour is more than enough time. So I think we had some really, really good plays, in the prop market. Again, we did really well last week. My man Al checking in. Yo, Al, what's up, buddy? Thanks for checking in, as always, on a Friday night. My half-court heat man, my heat ratio sports guy, as always. But let's review these bets. And before we do, just do me a favor. Check out that scroll on the bottom. Okay, make sure you follow that Sharp app on all social formats. Okay, get there, download today. A lot of good things going on. Okay, and then I want you to do is I want you to join. Okay, join up. First month is free. Use a coupon code HEAT. You see the reference code on the bottom. Make sure your main Jigsaw get some credit here, right? Make sure they tell Jigsaw sent you. Okay, and then on top of that, subscribe to the YouTube page. Okay, because every Friday, you're not just going to see this mug. You're going to see a lot of cool personalities. You're using my man Mark Drumheller on here, betting for breakfast, him and my boy Dave. So a lot of cool people on this app. John Stastational, the guy is amazing. Free bet of the day. He just never ends, right? You got the Cuz and Anthony Gargano with the man Kevin, the geek from DFS Army. So many different things on this app. You will really like and enjoy. I can tell you that right now. But for my money, I appreciate you guys tuning in. The alternative edge, like I said, a new concept that I like, something that allows me to kind of step outside my safe zone and talk a little bit more about sports betting, but still stick to the DFS concept. So let's review before we get out of here. Okay, you see the lock of the week right there. Nyheim Hines over 26.5 yards. I think that is a stone cold lock. Mike Davis, the over on receptions at 3.5. I really like that number. Again, he had 3 last week. We're only asking for 1 more. Jalen Riger, the over 3.5 receptions against a depleted 49ers secondary. No doubt in my mind this is going to happen. Philip Lindsay, the over 22.5 rushes. I know he only had 8 carries last week, but he turned that into 28 yards, which means he's still got the rock. This is going to be a game that gets out of hand, and Lindsay's going to be the guy to get the garbage work. So 22.5 to me, it's a no-brainer to go on the over. And then we're going to go double bet here. Kareem Hunt, over 39.5, over 59.5 rush and pass yards. I think this is the Kareem Hunt week. I think he will outproduce Nick Chubb, and I think everybody will be happy. And last but not least, fly Eagles fly, Jalen Hurts, under 50.5 rushing yards, under 236.5 passing yards. Completely different, flipping the script from last week. Last week we were over at 285.5 combined. This week we are under at 286 or 287. I just think this is going to be a week the Niners kind of they buckle down a little bit. Joey Bosa caused some havoc. Warner in the middle will be the spy, like we talked about. I know Trevor mentioned it as well. I think we will still win this game in Philadelphia, but I think for the prop market, I think both the unders are the way to go for this week. Again, Tony Jigsaw Cotillo here at the Sharp app. Everybody, really appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been amazing. Decided to go live tonight. No big deal. It saves myself a little work too. I'm not going to upload anything. Okay? I'm going to be honest with you. But again, like I always say, man, catch me back here next Friday. We'll back at a regular time at noon. Okay, catch me tomorrow and Sunday. Fantasy Firebox on Win Daily Sports, where we're talking all things fantasy. Tomorrow, baseball, Sunday football, getting you ready for week 2. So like I always say, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch you next time.